U.S. military and its overreach.
Rob and Michelle Reiner's 32-year-old son, Nick, set to make his first court appearance after he was charged in his parents' murders. L.A. County District Attorney Nathan Hochman.
These charges carry a maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty.
CBS News Brief. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
From Mason City to your hometown, we've got the information you need. Turn us on at home, work, and in the car. AM 1300 KGLO.
It is time now for the Ask the Mayor program here on your hometown news station, AM 1300 KGLO. And this will be our last time that we meet with Mason City's Mayor Bill Schickel as he joins us from his office in downtown Mason City this morning. Mayor, good morning and welcome back.
Hey, good morning, Bob. So great to be back. You know, I was doing the calculating. This is show number 384 of Ask the Mayor. Yeah,
I'm glad you did it because I was thinking about that actually last night. I was going to.
Yeah, I thought 384 today, yeah. And so thank you for hosting the show. Started back in 1990 when I first took office, but it's great to be back, and it's just been a great way to talk with the people.
We've talked about this off and on through the time we've done the show, and actually, I think we've talked about it as well with people in public when they've come up to both of us and said we appreciate what this show has done through the years, because obviously, yeah, you can hear the soundbite of what happens at a council meeting or a city official explaining what is all going on. But having a conversation like this and maybe being able to explain things a little bit more really brings a service to the public.
Yeah, and it's even more than that. On a dominant news talk station like AM 1300 KGLO, it really builds a sense of community. It's something that people can tune in to, learn about what's going on in the community and ask questions. So it's a great public service that you've been involved in.
Well, we appreciate, you being able to take time out of your schedule here, as well as I know we tried doing this online for about a year or so, and some people did follow along, some people didn't, but I think people will be following back along on this program now that we've got things reestablished back here. So greatly appreciate you always agreeing to take some time out. Let's before we start looking back, through some of those topics you've covered in the 380 plus shows that you just mentioned. Last night, the council held a goal setting session prior to the regularly scheduled meeting, and maybe just talk about, obviously, I think the review of some of the previous goals and looking ahead into 2026 for what the city of Mason City wants to do.
Well, it was just a great session getting together with the city council and our city administrator, and really it's full steam ahead. Priorities for the upcoming year, next couple of years probably, are to complete the comeback of the downtown mall, single family housing, make sure we keep taxes low and stay affordable. Those are the goals for the future. Then we looked at the past accomplishments, and there are many of them.
Go through some of those past accomplishments that the council thought were being achieved.
Well, one that I just feel so good about is being really a good government model. Our goal from the beginning has been very simple, just to make Mason City a model of what good government looks like, and staying away from the partisan divide and focusing on solving problems, I really think has paid off, because, streets and public safety and jobs really don't have party labels.
And when it boils down to things, those are the most important things the city government provides: the infrastructure, the police and fire protection, and once again, that infrastructure, because it's the water, it's the sewer, it is everything else that the city has the greatest responsibility for when it comes to a year-by-year budget.
And those are the very basic and top priorities for myself and for the council, as they have been. And I think we've been able to achieve a lot by staying away from the partisanship. I think going back in history, I think it was Harry Truman that said, there's no Democrat or Republican way to build a street.
You talk about, you mentioned there about political divide, political polarization and dysfunction. We've seen that, of course, a little bit more on the national scene. I think maybe through the last few years. Maybe it's trickled down to the state level, but I don't think it's trickled down here to the local level necessarily. But do you think there's been an impact at the local government level, seeing some of that political polarization and dysfunction on the national and state level?
Well, I think it's a really good question. And there's always an attempt to, drag us into that. But I guess one thing that I really give a lot of credit to the city council, our city staff, and really the community for really being an oasis, a calm oasis and sometimes a stormy sea. And I think we've been able to do that. And I think that's why we've been able to have such incredible success here in Mason City and why we see so much pride in our community right now.
Well, let's look back through, once again, 3 different terms that you've served as mayor, the first being in 1990. And, of course, you came here to Mason City, as you mentioned in your wrap-up speech last night, looking for a job, a kid from Cincinnati coming here to look for a job. And could you have ever envisioned being involved in a career that included being Mason City's longest-serving mayor, as well as also serving your community in other ways, including you had a term on the council as well before this third stretch as being mayor. And, of course, you also served in the legislature in between a couple of your mayoral terms.
Well, Bob, Mason City has just given me so much, and that's what I tried to talk about in my remarks last night. I came here looking for work, got a job at the Globe Gazette back in 1978 when I originally moved here. But then, the community really embraced myself and our family and was able to give me the trust to hold their trust and, to be able to hold this office over the years. I consider myself to be a temporary custodian of this high office. And, it's such a precious thing to be able to hold the hopes and dreams of the community in mind with every decision we make. And so I'm ever grateful for the trust that the community has placed in me.
Maybe, talk a little bit more. What made you want to enter the field of politics locally and at the state level?
I believe public service is a high calling. I've always believed that. And I come from a family that believed that. I've got a brother that's a state senator, a brother-in-law that was a state senator. But more than that, I grew up in a family of 11, and around that big dining room table, we used to talk about things and talk about the community and being involved in public service. And we always considered public service to be a high calling. And my career really has consisted of broadcasting, journalism, and public service. And in many ways, they've gone hand in hand.
Looking at some things that, the city's had to deal with through the years. And one issue is property taxes and the cost of living. And, specifically talking about property taxes, that's obviously a hot button issue that the legislature is going to, they say they're going to try to tackle this year. Of course, they said that at this time last year and didn't end up doing anything.
Well, they did some things.
Well, but obviously there's still a lot of talk on trying to reform things. And there's obviously a lot of questions in the air and what they may do. And of course, cities, counties, school boards, those affected by property taxes and maybe property tax reform are really kind of maybe even on pins and needles at this point, wondering what the legislature will end up doing.
Well, here's the thing people should understand. We understand, I understand, the city administration understands that the high cost of living can really be a killer for working families. But that's why we've worked so hard to keep the cost of living down, to keep our property taxes low compared to other comparable size cities. Actually, we've had an average 2% increase over the last 10 years, which is well below the cost of living index, and it's well below the increases that the state budget has seen. And so, Main Street, Mason City did an analysis of Main Street, Iowa did an analysis of Mason City, and it shows that Mason City has more amenities at a lower cost of living than most comparable size cities in the country. So we understand this is an important issue. We'll continue to make our voice known on this down at the state legislature. Property taxes, you get the bill all at once. I bet if I asked you off the top of your head, how much did you pay in sales taxes, you probably wouldn't know. But the fact of the matter is, most people pay more in sales taxes than they do in property taxes. Property taxes is an accountable system. Really, it's a fair system. But we try to keep those property taxes low because that's what encourages growth here in Mason City.
Right now, obviously, is kind of the big time that ramps up the budgeting process. City department heads are starting to, put their pencil to the paper and try to figure out the numbers that are the best. And once again, with not knowing what the legislature is going to do, that's obviously, I would assume, put a little bit of pressure on city department heads on what they want to do, and city leaders as well, and what they may want to do for the upcoming budgeting year, which they have. Let's see, that law has changed so many times through the last few years on when the cities have to have a budget done. I think it's right now at the end of March.
Yeah, and no question about it. But, we budget conservatively, and we keep a close eye on what the state legislature is doing. And our goal is to keep property taxes low. And we've been able to do that, and we'll continue to do that. But we talked about this at our strategic planning last night. Yes, it adds a degree of uncertainty. And, we've been able to do so many things here in Mason City, and we believe that the local accounted elected officials are the ones that should be able to make those decisions, and we'll continue to share that message.
There have been many projects done in this community during your terms as mayor. Of course, as of more recent, the ongoing Iowa Reinvestment District Act River City Renaissance project. We saw the arena get completed and has been in great use over the last 5 years. The principal pavilion as well has gotten a lot of good use as well. Of course, the private portion of the project is the hotel, and it's finally good to see a foundation when you drive by at that hotel site.
Yeah, it's so great to see the scaffolds in the air and the cranes in the air. Actually, I went by yesterday. The scaffolding is going up. So the first downtown hotel in more than a century in Mason City. It's not just a building. It's a statement about the confidence and momentum that we're seeing here in Mason City. And it's really the third and final phase of our River City Renaissance. And it's having a major ripple effect already.
Of course, we heard for, a period of time, the Skywalk to Nowhere. And I think we finally heard you say those words here maybe 5 or 6 months ago, Skywalk to Nowhere. That really, it was smart to do that part of the project then just because of the cost factor, wasn't it?
No question about it. It made sense to do it because we saved a lot of money to be able to do that. But I understand the question. I understand the criticism. I feel very blessed that we've been able to turn the Skywalk to Nowhere into the cornerstone, really, of Mason City's comeback. But those kinds of criticisms, I understand them. And, I made some predictions along the way of when the groundbreaking would take place. And a lot of those turned out, to be mistakes, not to be correct. But I learned from that when I make mistakes, when we make mistakes, this community has really been able to lift me up when I've stumbled. And I so much appreciate that. And it's taught me something about leadership. And that is that, none of us are perfect. Leadership does not come from perfection. It comes from the partners that work alongside of us. It comes from the people that we work with, and a sense of humility, and the people that we walk along with.
And I kept going back, and I don't know if we've really talked about this on this program, but I know I've mentioned it to a few people talking about the hotel project, that when you look at other Iowa Reinvestment District projects, I go to the one in Sioux City, that they had a similar problem of different components of that project having to be delayed. And I remember when Mason City was actually going through the Reinvestment District process with the Iowa Economic Development Authority Board, that was one of their key things that they were talking about as Mason City's project was getting approved. Sioux City was having all these stumbling blocks. So this is not a unique situation. It did get drug out a heck of a long time, but this was not unique to those the Reinvestment District projects.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's just part of economic development. It's part of the process. These things never go as quickly as we would like to see them. That I'm just so gratified about the momentum that we're seeing in Mason City now. Momentum builds on momentum, and this moving forward with this hotel, it's just it's a significant major development.
Southbridge Mall was, kind of in there when we talked originally about the reinvestment district. Hopefully that, the growth and the redevelopment with the arena and the principal pavilion and the addition of the hotel would spur growth of the mall and revitalization of the mall. Obviously, part of the process that I don't think the city was anticipating was taking over Southbridge Mall, and maybe just talk about that happening for the city having to take over the mall and the progress now that the city wants to do with the revitalization of that property.
I call it community ownership of the mall, because the community does own the mall now. And this is one of the goals that we talked about during our strategic planning last night, to complete the comeback of the mall. I think it's important to keep in mind that we've made significant investment in the mall already. Replacement of a good portion of the roof, along with other things. The theater opening up this spring. We see some new businesses in the food court area. Not to mention that on a national level, we're really seeing a resurgence of malls. So we feel the timing is right on this. I think it's great that the community will be able to have a say in what the future of that mall looks like. I advocate perhaps the renaming of the mall or the rebranding of it. We'll see. There's a lot of interest in, in retro things right now. So we may incorporate that look. The movie theater may very well be part of that. But I think it's also, we need to keep in mind that, we've already have the multi-purpose arena, which is an active going concern, drawing a lot of people in there. The sports page right next door there is rocking. And then you mentioned the Performing Arts Pavilion with the outdoor performing arts area. I was able to have a thank you Mason City, a little retirement celebration there the other day in the indoor performing arts pavilion area. And it just makes a fantastic place for that kind of community celebration. So there's no question there'll be challenges along the way, but I feel good about the future, not only of the mall, but of downtown Mason City in general.
And that movie theater portion of the mall, I know when I walked in, you talked about your celebration a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday. There were people working on a Saturday in there, and that is good to see that revitalized, and the forward thinking of getting that once again a piece of the community.
Oh, it really is great. And we've ordered the equipment. The equipment will be installed soon. The theater is being set up, and that will be a place for other community activities as well.
South of the mall, of course, the Riverwalk district. We saw that redeveloped here in the last few years as well. And
excuse me, Bob. I just had somebody say, I've had a lot of people. We're on the air right now on Ask the Mayor on KGLO, but Jane Fisher just stopped in. Jane, thank you.
Not a problem with that.
Bob, make sure you stop up to City Hall today and maybe get a treat.
Bob, all right. Jane just stopped by with some Merry Christmas treats. Jane, thank you so much for.
Okay, thank you for all you've done.
Yeah, thanks for stopping.
Bye.
Yeah. All right, back to things, Bob. Sorry about the impromptu there. Talking about the Riverwalk district, you mentioned that, and really that's been a stimulus for a lot of the other things that we've seen. This is a world-class amenity. It's something to be really proud of. Music, architecture, natural beauty all flow together there into an unforgettable experience. It steps from our downtown. The Riverwalk district is the front door to Mason City's nationally celebrated cultural crescent. And so it's really a shot in the arm to our entire downtown area. I credit it with closing the deal on the hotel, along with some other things that we're having with the mall. And so I'm very excited about opening up the Riverwalk district. We hope to move the Suzy Q's down into that area, the historic Suzy Q's. So it's going to be an exciting time looking forward.
Of course, there's been a push about outdoor recreation. I believe you've used the words trying to make Mason City the outdoor recreation capital of the upper Midwest. And we saw, of course, it started a little bit before, your recent term of being mayor with the talk about upgrading the city's trail system. And then, of course, the Destination Iowa Bike Park project, which is in the process of final completion here. We saw that soft opening a little bit over a month ago, and just talk about being able to how that has expanded during your time as mayor.
Well, and the great thing is, I really do believe that Mason City, River City, is becoming the outdoor recreation capital of the Midwest, and people are taking notice. If you go up to our bike park, if you go down to the Riverwalk, go into other areas, you notice license plates really from all over. So the grand opening of the Prairie Rock Trail system has just been a wonderful step forward. Like I mentioned, it includes the bike park, the Highline Trail, the Murphy Park Trail, Evans Preserve, the Rapids, the Riverhawk Trail, the Script Road Trail, the beautiful Script Road Trail along the riverfront, the Prairie Land Connector. The list goes on and on. 20 miles of trails, 600 acres of parkland. Really makes us a destination for outdoor recreation, and it adds to our other calling cards, which of course are architecture. One of the 20 best cities in the world for architecture lovers, along with the music, with the heritage provided to us by native son Meredith Wilson.
You mentioned the Script Road Trail. How many times during your involvement with city government did that specific stretch of road come up as what should we do with it? Because I know there's been several times the council has addressed, should we repave it as a road? And actually, my thought was it should have stayed as a road. But then when the proposal came about to make it what it is today with the trail, I thought that was the best repurposing of that road.
No question about it. And I really credit Mayor-elect Councilman John Lee for pushing that initiative forward. That was in the first ward, which he represents. And I was with you. I was a little skeptical of closing a road and make it into a trail. But I'm going to tell you right now, I was wrong. And that trail is just a huge asset. And it links with all of our other trails. It links Nyack with downtown, for heaven's sakes. And then it goes along the Murphy Park Trail and that beautiful bridge that heads over toward East Park. And there's more trail work to be done in that area. One priority I talked about last night is, we've got all these beautiful trails and I mentioned that, but it's really important that we connect them. We've made a huge investment in outdoor recreation, and we don't want to waste it by not connecting and interconnecting all these trails so people know how to get, for example, from the Riverwalk up to the bike park, either on foot or by car or on a bicycle, and it's easily accessible and well marked.
Mason City Mayor Bill Schickel joining us here on the Ask the Mayor program this morning here on KGLO, also on our KGLO News Facebook page, as well as we've got a KGLO News YouTube stream going as well this morning. So you can check out the program if you missed it through all those methods. The things that we just talked about, the trails, the bike park, the even redeveloping the mall and Principal Pavilion and Mason City Arena and the hotel being hooked up to Music Man Square, those all point toward tourism in the community, which I think has always been a big thing, not only here in Mason City, but Cerro Gordo County, of course, with Clear Lake being a big tourism destination. Still a priority here in Mason City, in your mind, I would assume.
Last year, $150 million in spending from tourism. We are an international tourism destination here. I really credit Lindsay James and the entire gang over at Visit Mason City with doing such an outstanding job of showing our community, and it's putting our very best forward, not only to visitors, but to our residents. Last year, we had visitors from all 50 states. And there's so many things contributing to that. We've talked about so many of them, but we haven't mentioned the brand new airport terminal. That's a significant thing for bringing people in here. And so tourism is significant. I expect it to increase in the last several years. And The other thing is that visitors here are potential residents. And we love having new people move to our community. And that brings up the issue of housing, which is another priority that the City Council established last night. And, we've built 200 new housing units in the last 2 years here in Mason City, but most of them are new apartments, much needed new apartments for workforce. But the priority moving forward is affordable single family housing. And that was established as a priority last night. But the tourism that we see here and the expansion in housing that we see indicates that people want to live here, and we certainly want to encourage that.
What might help spur single family housing development in this community? Because I know that's been mentioned off and on, and I'm not sure if there's, there really hasn't been a solution to that here in the last 4 or 5 years. Well, since the housing study has, of course, been completed and that topic has come up.
Yeah, and we thought this, it's a good question, Bob, and thank you for that question. But we thought the same thing really 3 years ago. We were saying the same thing about how are we going to get additional apartments in Mason City for our workforce? And we answered that question by, yes, there have been some local incentives. There have been some state incentives. I really credit our economic development team. And I have to mention our outstanding and city administrator, Aaron Burnett, who has been significant in all the accomplishments that we've mentioned so far, but also in seeing the need for additional housing and then going about filling that need. We talked about the 200 additional apartments, but we talked, and we're fortunate on the city council. We've got a couple of people, Councilman Tim Latham, Councilman John Lee, both of them deeply involved in real estate and have a good understanding of these things. We talked about the possibility of providing additional incentives, additional street work, utilities, along with those things that make the cost for a developer to come in possible to be able to provide the kind of housing that we need. I'm very gratified what we're seeing in the West downtown district. I had the honor late last week, actually on Friday, to attend the open house on First Street there between downtown as you head over to Mercy. A big old dilapidated house there with our assistance, purchased by Habitat, that is totally renovated into a beautiful single family home. And Habitat has more plans, as does the city, in that neighborhood. So I think more of the kinds of things along those lines will provide great affordable housing in Mason City, not to mention the neighborhood down south in the Fourth Ward in the south and the old Madison School area there. 13 new homes being built down in that area. And so we're partnering with organizations like Habitat, additional partnerships with possibly some additional incentives for developers can make it happen.
You mentioned the airport a few moments ago, and looking back through the history, obviously there's been ups and downs of the airport in regards to commercial service, and obviously a great opportunity for the city to be able to reconstruct a new terminal and upgrade the facilities at the airport. But we look at airports of our size. Some are not as fortunate to have commercial service. In fact, Dubuque just decided not to renew any of their agreements with the airline that was coming into Dubuque. So that really shows that passengers have been using our airports, and keeping that air service is vital to North Central Iowa.
Regular flights by United to Chicago, daily flights by United to Chicago are a big deal. And Gary Watnum, the chair of the Airport Commission, along with David Sims, our airport manager, just doing a fantastic job. I've had the pleasure of flying out of there several times recently into Chicago and then other destinations, and it just works so well. We're an essential air service community. That's one of the things we've been watching the federal government about with all this the budget negotiations. So far, so good that funding for the essential air services has continued. But we also have a major commercial air hub here where the businesses and the industry and private pilots are using, and So much so that recently we had a delegation from Japan here looking at what we do with our commercial airline service, with the fly-in breakfast and all kinds of other activities out there that really make it a going concern.
Well, looking back at, since your first term as mayor back in the early 90s and, spanning through until now, what other projects come to your mind from the past that you oversaw as mayor that have had a great impact on this community?
Well, I think what we've seen in the last 8 years have been really the capstone of what we've been able to do. And a lot of significant things happen along the way. The opening of the renovation of the historic Park Inn. I was down at the legislature at the time, but that was a major thing. That was kind of a turning point for Mason City. I credit former Mayor Carl Miller with his vision for Music Man Square. I mean, that was a rundown, old, dilapidated house, and he saw that as the boyhood home for Meredith Wilson and really turned that into another destination. So there have been significant, our consistent investment in infrastructure as we move along has been really positioned us well for, the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years or so to be able to really move forward and take major steps forward. During our goal setting session last night, we had Mark Jackson, the city administrator. He's down in Story City. He came in and he does these goal setting sessions throughout the state. And he pointed out that, he's been in some communities where they're really, really having a rough time and things are not going well. They've been sucked into the partisan divide, among other things. He says that he points to Mason City as an example. If you want to look and see how to manage your government, how to move forward, how to keep costs low, look to Mason City. And so we take that certainly as a point of pride.
The city's been working on, overall rebranding. Maybe just talk about why that is important.
Well, I think that's really a big deal. And once again, I credit Lindsay James and Main Street Mason City for taking the lead on that. But everything from our stationery to our water towers to our different departments to our recreation department, to have the same brand, to have a consistent brand. And our new logo and branding really is beautiful. It represents our Prairie School heritage, our music heritage, and our heritage as River City. It's a very clean, simple, forward-looking logo, and we plan to do, and the city plans to do a lot more with that as we move forward, because telling our story is so important, and we have such a great story to tell.
Well, as we start to wrap up the program here, a couple of final questions I have. Have you given any advice to Mayor-elect John Lee as he gets ready to take over at the start of the year? Or if you haven't, what advice would you give him?
Well, certainly, I'm not one to give unsolicited advice, but John and I have been able to get together on a regular basis for coffee early in the morning to discuss things. I think John's going to be a great mayor. He's got the background, he's got the temperament, and I look forward to his leadership. Yeah, we've had a lot of chance to communicate and talk about the role of this office and the honor of serving the people in this capacity.
So what's Bill Schickel going to do now? And as he's wrapping up, let's see, 2 weeks from today will be your final day as mayor. Yeah. And what's in the future for Bill Schickel?
Well, Candy and I are really looking forward to the next chapter. This was not an easy decision, but it is the right decision, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter. We're going to do a little travel, take a little time off, and then we'll see. No major decisions at this point, but we do plan to stay here in Mason City and make this our base of operation. As far as the future is concerned, it's a big world out there with a lot of opportunity, and I'm excited about it.
One final question for you before we let you go. If someone were to write an updated history book of Mason City in the near future, how would you hope your legacy would be documented?
Well, Bob, thank you so much for the question. I think the foundation is strong. The momentum is real. And I truly believe that Mason City's very best days are still ahead. If people say that Mason City proved that we can be affordable, we can govern well, and we can build our community at the same time, I'll be proud of that.
Well, Mayor, we once again, how many shows has it been? You counted them, not
This
me.
is show number 384.
384
That's
and the
the
final
mayor.
one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But Mayor, once again, I cannot thank you enough for not only agreeing to be a regular part of this program through the years. Of course, all the other hosts of this program before me, I'm sure have greatly appreciated that as well. And, obviously, especially here in the last month, you've been a big promoter of this radio station, and we appreciate you. And our company owner, Jeff Warshaw, was in town. You were out to present a key to the city, which he was very tickled about. And, you've been obviously a great promoter and a friend of mine, backing my efforts here to try to keep North Central Iowa informed. And I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done here as you wrap up your final weeks of your term.
Thank you, my friend. Keep up the great work.
Absolutely. Mason City's Mayor Bill Schickel joining us on the Ask the Mayor program here on KGLO. It is not our final Ask the Mayor program of 2025. Clear Lake's Mayor Nelson Crabb, it's a special edition. He was not able to join us when he was supposed to be on last week. He'll be with us at the same time tomorrow, starting at 8:30. And actually going forward in 2026, we will be moving the Ask the Mayor program to Thursdays. It accommodates John Lee a little bit more in his schedule. And he's agreed to join us starting in 2026. Clear Lake's Mayor-elect Mark Ebling has agreed to join us as well. You've been listening to the Ask the Mayor program here on your hometown news station, AM 1300 KGLO Mason City. And we will get into the Dan Patrick Show here, joining it in progress.
The best investment you can make.